I will too. Got a little bit too into MLB talk right now, fellas. I'm excited for MLB. I'm regged on both sites for MLB, both sites for NBA. Nick, we're rolling, man. How we feeling?
Good man, yeah. Obviously, that time of year we're playing multiple sports. Makes you think of the Bo Jacksons and the Deion Sanders of the world, and we're
That's
right there
us.
with them doing this, but not really. But yeah, man. I mean, we're definitely juggling, but it's great. We got a great community at Occupy. Obviously, we're knee deep in this stuff, and yeah, this time of year for NBA. I mean, as tough as it is sometimes to get the content out and to do these streams, it really is valuable because there's a huge edge there. Like, if you're not late reacting to news, just don't play. I mean, these lineups have been shaken up every single night. We're talking about guys like Drew Timmy on a night to night basis. And yeah, it gets ugly, but at the same time, the uglier it gets, sometimes the bigger the edge. So we got to just lead into it where we can.
Yeah, I've been talking about it. Like, I've been way under and way over on basically everyone the past few slates. Yesterday went horribly. Didn't work out yesterday. But other than that, it's been going pretty well. So I'm just going to keep doing it. Lean into your guys. If you have a take, go for it. If it's someone that isn't reflecting well on the model, or even if we're not excited about him when you ask about him, just play your guy. If you find a reason to play anyone, do it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's time to be bold.
Yeah, Ben, first guy in the chat. I guess you got to share your lineup. It's a new thing. Unicorn, good to see you. Top play of the night, Booker, Phoenix, and Kobe White, Chicago. We'll see about that. Landon, good to see you. Dante and Nas, that one's interesting. We'll see what's going on in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Binking, I hope we're binking out tonight. Turning out to be a crazy slate. Every single slate is going to be ridiculous now. Especially we got like Zion and CJ ruled out for the season. We're going to get more stuff like that happening. Timmy was horrible yesterday. Yeah, I mean, Nick, there was an extra guy in the rotation. Nick Claxton was there, but he still kind of got his minutes. He just didn't get rebounds, right?
Yeah, I mean, and again, he's there to kind of help them tank. I think with Claxton coming back, they had Clowney in too. Not surprised. And like I said, I wanted to play centers on DK over him. I didn't think he was a great play on DK. On FanDuel, I understood it where he was power forward eligible. But yeah, I mean, players like that aren't going to be great every night because they aren't in the NBA regularly for a reason. They're getting these opportunities late in the season. And for a team like the Nets, it's because they want to look good while they lose. And he's a good player to do that.
Oh, Dante and Nas are out. That's the joke. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And that game's on FanDuel only, just to shout that out real quick.
Thinking thinks this is one of the best slates of in a while, so I hope so, man. All these slates have been pretty good recently, except yesterday. Uh, yeah, Timmy had 17 on FanDuel.
That
Did
was
not
great.
help you in a tournament yesterday. I was so mad because Modest was originally in my single entry, but I swapped off of SGA to go to Luca, and then it also changed Dinwiddie to Jalen Green, and every single player scored less than the player I swapped off of. So, but on FanDuel, Timmy was still a good play yesterday. Just like Nick said on DraftKings, it was hard because we had infinite value centers.
Yeah, obviously Timmy didn't get there, but like if that slate plays out again, like you'd still probably get some exposure.
Oh,
3,900 given his minutes.
yeah, I would try to have a little less than I had, but it was still a good play for the price.
Hmm.
So we have the slate a little weird today. FanDuel has that island game, and DraftKings. We got the slate starting a half hour later than usual, which is great because if you're playing baseball today, you have a little bit of time to do both. So let's jump into Phoenix, Milwaukee. Someone mentioned D Book top tournament play. I mean, we've been saying it the last few slates. It's really just D Book, Kevin Durant, and I guess sprinkles of Nick Richards for us. Model doesn't like Nick Richards today, though. It likes Royce O'Neal. What do you think about the Suns?
Yeah, it's interesting. Beal could be back, right? Obviously, that would kind of throw a wrench in things. I mean, a lot of these big games from both KD, who's out now,
Oh, yeah,
and
KD's
Booker
out.
have come with Beal out. But yeah, obviously with KD going down, we could still get to a lot of Booker. Milwaukee historically very bad defensively against guards. With Dame out, I don't know that that changes too much. I honestly think like yeah, almost any guard is kind of an upgrade over Dame's defense, but at the same time, it's not enough to really matter. But yeah, Booker looks great. I don't know. I kind of want Beal to be out to get there super aggressively at the same time that probably causes ownership to climb. But right now, looking at it, I do think he's a good play. Like, I'm honestly surprised he's not a little bit more popular here. Again, it is a pretty good matchup for him. I know he hasn't really been putting up the numbers lately, but we saw 30+% usage with KD out against Houston. That number should continue to climb. And yeah, close enough spread, high enough total, checks enough boxes for me. I do like Book in his ownership, but it's more like an ownership play than I think he absolutely crushes. But the OF index score is there, so would not argue with anyone playing Book.
Yeah, strong OF index score. Model doesn't love it. Points per dollar value. Maybe there's other pay ups it prefers. But at the ownership, I agree with Nick. And then Bradley Beal's projected for 27.5 minutes. At this price, even though the model kind of hates him at 27 minutes, I still think we can take some shots. I kind of feel like the Suns, like, they can push Bradley Beal. I don't think they really care about him, and they really want to make the playoffs for some reason. So but then Royce O'Neal, yeah, actually getting a ton of Royce O'Neal. This is assuming he starts over on DraftKings at least. I'm getting a ton over there, 23%, 1% on FanDuel. He's probably worth more than 1% on FanDuel, assuming he starts. Keep an eye on the projected minutes when we get that starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he should be the ones in starting for KD. Obviously, you want to keep an eye on that. Assuming he is, though, 4K is just way, way, way too cheap for him. FanDuel 5,200, it's definitely more of a conversation point. Wouldn't be prioritizing him over there. But I do think we're going to see Gillespie, Dunn, and O'Neal starting,
Mm-hmm.
even if Beal's available. Likely to see Beal come off the bench, stagger his minutes as much as possible with Booker. So O'Neal would be the guy over on DK. I've been over on Ryan Dunn a lot lately. It's been kind of burning me, so I'm probably off that train. But you'd have to think with KD out, some of these guys are going to benefit. But again, lots of places to go for value on this slate. Booker, a really good tournament play. O'Neal, if he starts on DK. Other than that, I don't know that there's anything I'd call a priority necessarily.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone did it. I mean, models identifying Dunn and Gillespie on DK now. I've been talking about Gillespie being at the top of value, still not being a great play, but with Durant out, I just don't know if these are the type of guys that pick up a ton of extra usage. I mean, Bryce O'Neal is the easy one to get here, though, with KD being
Yeah.
out. So anyone beyond him is probably just a GPP play, even deep book at his price.
Yeah.
We'll go to the other side, Milwaukee. Oh God, I have a ton of Giannis again, dude. Every single time he's burned us, I said we're gonna reduce our ownership on him, but again, we have all the value to fit him in. Really strong OF index. The value scores are not that great, but he is the most expensive player on the slate. I guess Jokic, but he's pulling the ownership. What do you want to do with Giannis?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup for him. I mean, if you're playing on DK, he is the top OF index play on the slate. No Dame, still no Portis. I mean, we keep saying the same thing. He hasn't really been getting there in terms of upside, but yeah, I don't see how you don't just play him here. Last game against Phoenix, only 54 fantasy points over 37 minutes. I mean, again, he hasn't really been producing at the level we want to see. But yeah, logically, like, there's no reason just not to play a bunch of them. I think the field is actually under where I expected him to be. So I'll probably be over that 30% on DK. I'm not going to be on FanDuel much tonight. I do like Jokic over there if you can find the salary for him. But yeah, with Dame out in a good matchup, it's tough not to just play a bunch of this guy.
Yeah, and then beyond him, Ryan Rollins has shown up as a really strong value. I'm very comfortable playing him at 4,300. The 5,200 on FanDuel is a little bit uncomfortable, but he's 15% owned. I think it's still fine. I mean, I mentioned it before. It's pretty clear that the coach likes Kevin. He likes him more than Kevin Porter Jr. And Kevin Porter Jr., as for him, he's up to 5K, 5% owned. Like, that ownership, I don't know if even that might be okay because he just has a 40-point ceiling. Sometimes he's going to give you 12, but if you hit him on a night that he puts up that ceiling, you're going to be really happy about it. And I'll just mention Kuz. I think the price is still fine and the ownership seems fine to mix in as a last guy in type play.
Yeah, last guy in, he's fine. I will say on Rollins, I do like him a lot on DK. I think he makes perfect sense over there. The price on FanDuel, I still think he's fine, like you said. But yeah, there were a few games with Dame when he first went out. We were really trying to figure out which of these guys was the guy. Porter, even off the bench, outscored him a few times, really muddied things up. But I think as we start to see a bigger and bigger sample size, it's being reflected in the model. Rollins is the better play. He's the better player right now. And yeah, I'm happy to continue to play him as long as he's starting.
We're going to jump back to Phoenix real quick. So Royce O'Neal was a late add to the injury report. So did you have a stronger lean that he was going to sit? I didn't know he was a late add.
I mean, honestly, no. I didn't. I didn't look too deeply into it. I thought he'd be in, so this is kind of news to me. Maybe we see Iguodala slide into the four. I don't know if the douche is in here, our resident Suns fan. We'd love to hear his take on it. He's always got the good Suns takes. But yeah, I could see him maybe starting. Maybe they go smaller. But I guess a team like Milwaukee, you don't really like logically think that would be the way they should go. Maybe Bol slides back in, and at 3,700, he'd be someone we'd have interest in. But again, gonna have to see that starting lineup. The good news is it is one of the first games.
Yeah, as of right now, we haven't projected for less than 10 minutes, Bol, but that's a guy I wanted to jump back to. I see a few people asking about him in the chat. If he ends up starting, he's probably going to be under-owned. I know that this is the first game on the slate, but it does start late. There's baseball, and people just don't late swap like they were earlier in the season. So Bol would be a great addition. I don't know if he's going to show up strongly in the model. I don't know what his minutes are going to be projected for, but I can't imagine he's going to be a bad play because he likely comes in under-owned. He's 3,700. We know the ceiling he has, and Suns are super off and on with him, but this is a guy worth taking some shots on if he starts.
Yes, if he starts. The minutes are impossible to project if he doesn't.
And then after the Suns' last two outings, I'm staying away from them. They look horrible. I mean, they're the worst franchise in the NBA, but that's probably okay.
Yeah, and you said earlier, I don't know why they want to get in the playoffs so bad. It's because they have no draft
Yeah,
picks forever. Like they
yeah.
went all in, and this is their only chance. They really have to go for it.
And then Powers in the chat giving us a heads up on the Chicago news. Like we said, guys, just late swap. Be ready to make changes. It's kind of a short window to make the swaps today with the late start and then not having any late games on DK.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing Giannis, you're pairing him with Lopez. Any quick thoughts on that, Nick?
I don't really think that that's something I'm
I
concerned
agree.
with. Yeah, either way though, like I don't think there's a reason not to play them together, but I also really don't think there's a reason to play them together. It's like two completely separate variables that really don't affect each other much, in my opinion. But hey, if you want to play them both, then you think this game is high scoring, go for it. Wouldn't talk you off playing either of them. I just don't really think there's correlation there.
Let's talk about these Knicks. Jose's asking Delon Wright over Rollins. I like Delon Wright, and I actually made a mistake last time. I said he got benched at the end of the game. He came in for a last rotation. He just played. He just put up 0 fantasy points in that whole rotation. So I thought that he did not play that last part, but he got up to 30 minutes 2 games ago. And then last game, I feel like he did just enough. I wasn't upset that I played him. 23 fantasy points. The 35 minutes is key. His usage is still low, but I mean, we told you that. OG, McHale, and Cat are kind of doing everything right now. Josh Hart. What did you think about Delon today? I'm getting back to him.
Yeah, I'm getting back to him. I do think Rollins is a little bit safer just looking at the minutes. Actually, no. We have Wright for more minutes, which is kind of throwing me off right now. Um, I like both of them. I do think Rollins has been a bit more productive consistently, so I trust him kind of a little bit more. But at the same time, I wouldn't argue with anyone playing either. Like the model, I think prefers Rollins. I want to say, don't quote me on that, but yeah, deferring to the model, 5.40 with index for Wright, 6.9 for Rollins. That's a pretty big gap, but I do think they're very similar in terms of their production and upside. So I like both. I play them in the same lineup. Very happy to roster them heavily.
Yeah, I have them projected essentially the same within a fantasy point of each other. So for me, they look really, really similar. Maybe if I have another, I don't know, because if I have like OG and McHale, two of my favorite plays on the slate once again, at too low of ownership once again, like I feel like playing Delon with them is not a bad thing. I don't want to necessarily disclude that from my exposures because
Yeah.
starters are just playing all heavy minutes, kind of what Nick was saying before about the minutes are correlated. Like, yeah, just play both of them. But McHale and OG, what do you think about them today?
Yeah, I like him. We also have to keep in mind Cat is a game time decision. That's obviously going to matter in a big, big way if he were to be ruled out. 5 minutes ago, I think that news came up. He was questionable all day, so it's not like a late ad. He could play here. But if he's out, I mean, OG, Bridges, I mean, even Hart are going to look much better than they already do. Obviously, we know there's no Brunson, no McBride behind him. So this is a thin squad, really widespread here. But as these guys start to get ruled out, hopefully it tightens up a bit. But yeah, man, I think where they're priced, OG looks great, Bridges looks solid. Hart a little bit inflated in terms of price, but we've seen he has triple double upside, so I wouldn't argue with anyone going there. Whoever ends up starting for the Knicks here, I think is going to be pretty appealing. With those three wings, Bridges, Hart, and OG, definitely the best of that group in my opinion. And if Cat's in, I don't mind him, but I'm with you. I think I'd rather get to those wings.
Kind of insane that Mikhail has the same OF index as Cat, and OG has a higher OF index than Cat. We have Cat
That is
projected for 32 and a half minutes. Yeah, just OG and Bridges on both sides, super duper standout. These are two of the best plays on the slate. Absolutely okay playing them together. I set a rule last time, max two of Josh Hart, OG, Mikhail, and Cat, and like we didn't want Cat in there, but Josh Hart, OG, and Bridges actually all did it. That would have been fine to get all in the same lineup. So maybe that's a mistake. But love these guys. We wanna play these guys pretty heavily today on both sides.
for sure.
Other side, Philadelphia. Let's take a look at the injury report before we start talking. Yabusele's questionable. He was a late. He got ruled out kind of late last time, and then Adam Bona started, and then Kyle Lowry's questionable. That'd be kind of annoying if he plays because it would cut into the rotations for some of these guys. But no one here's pulling ownership. Bona 4,900 at 5% on DK. I guess we have Yabusele in. So if Yabusele's in, what's your interest here?
I mean, there is a world where bonus still starts with Yabusele in. Like, I think they could go Butler, Grimes, Edwards, Yabusele, Bona. In which case, I'd still like Bona as a center value play. There's a few okay center values on this slate, not a ton really jumping out at me. And his ownership is super, super low. I think mostly because of the matchup, but obviously, if this game were to blow out, they're not going to cut bonus minutes for any reason. So he's someone I have circled as a good tournament play. I will say, other than that, not a ton I'm interested in. I think if Yabu's out, maybe we get Lonnie Walker starting again. He would be someone off the bench I'd also still consider, but as a starter, kind of a borderline core play for me in this matchup, especially if Towns is out and the spread tightens up a little bit. Shooters love to shoot in the Garden. Lonnie, not a great player by any stretch, but he is a shooter by archetype. That's the type of guy I do like to look to play here. And yeah, like I said, I think Bona's a good tournament play regardless, even next to Yabu, as long as he's starting.
Yeah, who's that in the chat last time that said they were plugging in Lonnie as their last man in all their lineups? Like that was before that starting lineup came out, and then he's starting. It's like, yeah, that's a smash move. So shout out to you, man. He was absolutely in the optimal lineup last time. 36 minutes, even. I guess he came back for the game before Miami, but it's a wide range of minutes. We're just going to hope that it's closer to the top end.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin Grimes. Did you mention Quentin Grimes?
I didn't. Yeah, I mean, north of 9K now. It's been a while since we've seen that ceiling. I think a part of that is Lonnie Walker being back and taking a million shots when he's on the floor. You can get to him if you're playing a bunch of lineups. Just, I'm only playing a handful tonight. Grimes will not be a part of my night.
Yeah, so going by the model, the only player that really stands out is Adam Bona, and we have Yabusele in right now, so Bona is going
Yeah.
to go up even more if he gets ruled out. We haven't projected for 26 minutes. This is a good GPP play. Lonnie Walker, we're going beyond the model. I'm okay getting to him. 4,500 on DK is fine, assuming he starts. Honestly, it's probably not a terrible play off the bench, but maybe we can find better alternatives. Whole team is just GPP plays, right?
Yeah, entirely. I mean, you can mix in Jared Butler too. He's had a couple of good games. But yeah, Grimes' price is just prohibitive to me, especially against the Knicks.
All right, let's take a look at Portland versus Atlanta. We have what, a 5-point spread? It's pretty close, man. I think Portland's kind of good. I was so upset about this question the other night. Someone asked Denny versus Sochan and just pay up for someone with that savings. And Smitty and I both said Sochan. He stuck out more in the model, but I thought about it a lot, and I think a better answer was there were a lot of players in Sochan's range that can do what we were hoping Sochan did, but there weren't that many players in Denny's range with that 60-point ceiling. And we did point out he had the ceiling, but I think that's a better way to look at it rather than absolute players. Like we're probably still going to have more exposure to the good value guy, but on that day, it's like Denny was probably the better play. So mess that one up. Hope you still stuck with Denny.
Yeah, and good timing on this is always the case. Anthony Simons just got ruled out as you were talking.
Okay, so we had Simons in here. Should we come back to Portland in a couple minutes then?
Um, if you want, I mean, I think maybe we see Ban get the nod at the one because we got to remember Scoot's out as well.
Yeah, and Jeremy Grant. Well, he's been out, but yeah, I kind of want to come back because Shaden Sharp is going to become probably super chalk. We haven't projected for
Yeah,
37 minutes already. We'll
and
come back
honestly,
to.
Denny's probably going to run a lot of point.
Oh yeah, I mean, the model already loved Denny today at 32 and 14%. Yeah, let's do it.
Or play. Yeah.
Really good matchup too against Atlanta. But we'll talk about Golden State, Memphis. I've been really liking targeting whoever's Memphis is playing, players from both sides. For Golden State, it's a little bit tougher today. I saw someone asking us to talk them out of Buddy Hield. The guy put up like 40 fantasy points last game, and it's like, is his ownership a little bit high today because he did that? Yes. Could he do it again? Sure, but maybe we can find other options. Model doesn't hate it though. Model actually likes a lot of these guys as decent value plays. Who stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean the big news is Kuminga being out. Still no Gary Payton either. Those are two regular pieces of this rotation, so it does create opportunities for someone like Buddy Hield. I've been playing more pods than anyone, which is never the most exciting thing. It works out some nights, other nights it doesn't. But to your point, this is a great matchup for all of these starters here. You can make a case for Curry at reasonable ownership. Jimmy Butler continues to look solid when he's out there. Haven't really seen him spike the ceiling as often lately, but it's there. He's capable. A matchup like this certainly something we can see. Draymond continues to feel a little bit too cheap, but at the same time, never a play I'm rushing to get to. Yeah, man, it's tough. Like, I think you can make a case for any starter here, but I can't sit here and say there's one that I'm super locked in on getting to. It benefits all these guys that Kuminga's out. It isn't to the point though where one guy's really absorbing that. It's just kind of get sprinkled throughout the Warriors. That's kind of Kerr's style. But Hield, I think we have him for 23 or 24 minutes. That's enough to mix him in. I will say he's obviously super scoring dependent. 3 for 6 from three last time out. He also made 5 of his 6 2-pointers, 5 boards, 4 assists. These are not normal numbers for Buddy Hield. So even if we got the minutes right, I do think he's probably a little bit. I mean, we haven't projected not all that well. So yeah, I do think the field's maybe a little bit too aggressive on that one. Maybe just try to find the salary for someone like Moody or just go to one of these other games. If Banton ends up starting, he's a pivot for me who's even cheaper. I'd really like to get to a guard. He has shooting guard eligibility as well on DK. So hopefully that just shakes out in our favor. But yeah, I don't mind Buddy Hield. It's just 15%. It seems a little bit crazy.
What's interesting to me here is the ownership difference on basically everybody. Everyone's lower owned on DK, even though we have that extra game on FanDuel. And I do understand the pricing. That makes sense to me. But I kind of feel like some of these guys are either under owned on DK or over owned on FanDuel. And so I don't know. I kind of just want to maybe middle these. I'm getting exposure to all these guys here. I guess I'm under the field on everyone on DK, but maybe I'll give it a little boost. Because like I said, I really like this game environment. And on the other side, Memphis, I mean, John Morant, he's up to 9K on DraftKings, which isn't ideal, but he's been really productive, even in the short minutes. It's a back-to-back, so maybe we'll be a little bit conscious of that. But Desmond Bain, JJJ, I think are still awesome plays at their ownership. Apparently, Santi's pulling ownership today because he finally had a good game yesterday. Jalen Wells, top of value. Zach Edey, top of value. Tell me about Memphis.
Yeah, I do like Ja, and I wonder if like all the restrictions on him came from the previous coach. Like, I still don't fully understand what happened there. But I'll say the same thing again. I do think Bain and Jackson are a little bit overpriced with Ja back and playing full minutes. They're kind of priced up as though Ja is out or limited. So as long as they're over 8K, I'm kind of hesitant to get there. It is a great matchup. I do think at low ownership, they're fine to mix it in tournaments. Then just to quickly speak on what you were saying about the ownership on the Warriors, I think a big part of that is you have so much more flexibility on DK. On FanDuel, you have the set positions, 2 guards or 2 point guards, 2 shooting guards, forward, et cetera, et cetera. Where you have those positions where you have a utility. You could play any forward or any guard. It creates a lot more like different ways to build. So someone like Draymond becomes more valuable because power forward's pretty thin tonight. Where on DK you could just put another small forward in at the forward, etc. Just to kind of talk through that. But yeah, I think Ja is the one play here I'm really interested in. I do like Aldama, but I will say I never get this guy right. Anytime he goes off, I don't play him. Anytime I play him, he doesn't. So on paper, I do think he's a pretty solid option. But again, I never seem to get him right. So maybe just avoid it.
We have Santi for 29 minutes. And I like the point you made about the roster construction differences with DK and FanDuel. Santi played 36 yesterday. He's been playing 26. It might be a little bit high for a minutes projection, but it's probably okay. I'm over the field on DraftKings, and I'm pretty comfortable with it, I guess. And then I do like getting to Bain and JJJ. You're paying up to be contrarian. Nick's right that they
Right.
are overpriced, but at their ownership, they have 50-point ceilings. And I might be slightly biased because Bain won me a tournament this week,
Oh
but they
yeah,
can still do it with Ja Morant in.
they can get there. Yeah.
Delano Banton starting for Portland. I imagine he's going to be our highest owned play. I don't see why we wouldn't play him on DK, but let's double check with the model in a few minutes.
Yeah, he's a point per minute beast, even when he's playing limited minutes. I like him a lot. He played 29 minutes against Denver, 42 fantasy points. Trying to look through other spots. Against Brooklyn, 24 minutes, 35 points. When he's given these opportunities, as long as we're projecting him over like 22 minutes, I think he's an excellent play.
Yeah, I mean, look at the 19, 14, 29, but Scoot and Anthony Simons are out. I mean, I imagine we're going to plug him in for mid 20s minutes with the potential to play more.
Yeah.
3,300, I see no reason to fade him. He's just too cheap. And starting, we can assume he's going to play.
Awesome matchup. Cheaper than Wright, cheaper than Rollins, cheaper than Heald. I mean, he's going to be tough not to get to a ton.
All right, let's knock out Orlando, San Antonio. I love the Spurs, similar to how I like Memphis lately. Good spot for fantasy. We did see Jeremy Sochan lose his playing time last time, so that was annoying. Orlando is the team I like the least for fantasy, but we're finally kind of getting. I mean, they're still pulling ownership, but Franz and Paolo lower than they have been. Their prices are coming up. Let's start with those two. Are you getting to any exposure?
I mean, I'm fine with it. Decent spot for them. I always prefer Paulo slightly, but you're going to have to kind of pay that premium. You can make a case for either of those two. Again, not going to call either a priority. I'm fine mixing them in tournaments. Kind of like the pay up to be contrarian type plays, but thing is, they're not as contrarian as maybe I'd hoped. Like both kind of pushing 20%. So very much neutral on them. But if you're landing on them, definitely wouldn't talk you off playing them. This is a matchup where they should both thrive. The interesting play to me is Wendell Carter. Again, just a guy who's kind of given me issues all season. I think on paper, he's always going to look excellent. It's just his range of outcomes seems to be extremely wide. In a matchup like this against the Spurs, who may be playing Sochan at center, or I don't even know who's going to play the five tonight, like Sandro, like Biombo, I don't think they necessarily need to play big. So this is a spot where I think Carter might be over-owned. At the same time, um, again, this is just a tough player to get right night to night. So I'm fine with Bonchero and Wagner. Those are really the two I have interest in. And then Anthony Black off the bench, you could kind of throw him into that mix of guards. But I'd rather play Rollins or right ahead of him. And now that we have banned, he's almost out of the consideration for me entirely.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know I'm under 10% on both Paolo and Franz. And then Wendell Carter, I have 1%. So don't love him. No other exposure to this team. Thought we'd like the Spurs, but unfortunately, the Magic are just a little bit too priced up for us to take advantage of that. On the Spurs side, though, it's like, where's Chris Paul? He's right here. He's strong value on DK. The 4,200 is probably a misprice, but his minutes are up and down, so you're taking the risk of him not being on the court. We have Sandro as the second value, 18 minutes, though. I'm assuming this still thinks he's coming off the bench. Harrison's going to show up here every day. 3,500 seems fine to me. Sochan got benched. His ownership is low. He had a terrible game. I'm okay going back to him if he's starting. Obviously, if he's off the bench, it's probably not a great play, but could still be worth a couple shots. Were there any other spots you like here? Keldon Johnson?
I don't mind Keldon. He's another guy whose minutes are very much all over the place, like pretty similar to Chris Paul, if we're being honest. I don't think I need to play Chris Paul again. We just have too much good guard value. But keep an eye on the starting lineup. Like if Sandro were to start, he's an absolute smash. If it's Biombo, I really don't even want to play him. He just plays 10 minutes and then ends up sitting. He's out there to just play the tip off, essentially. But yeah, just a bad matchup for these guys. I mean, you can make a case for Castle or Vassell, but there's nothing here I'm really clamoring to get to.
Yeah, Vassell and Castle, you guys see here. Their tournament plays, I mean, 10% on a few of these guys isn't bad. I'm under the field on everyone here except for Chris Paul. I guess I'm over. Maybe that changes. And then I thought I'd be over on Keldon Johnson. I still really like him because if you're playing him, you're hoping you get that range of outcomes where he plays 30 minutes and his usage is 33%.
Yeah, I got one more play to throw out. It is Champagne. I think he's one of the top value. Not quite. But yeah, we have him for 23 minutes. Pretty much any game where he's playing 23 minutes, he's getting you over 20 fantasy points. At his price on DK, especially, I do think that's pretty useful. He has guard and forward eligibility, so kind of like a last piece in to maybe fit in an extra pay up. I don't mind maybe mixing him in, especially if they end up playing a little bit smaller here. That he could be someone who could benefit run into a few extra minutes. So I just wanted to bring him up as someone, not that I love him, but I do like him as kind of a building block to maybe pay up at an extra position elsewhere.
I like him. I'm mad at him, though. I played 30% of him on this night when he put up 3 fantasy points, and he was in my highest scoring lineup, would have taken him if I played literally anyone else. There was one other player that put up 1 fantasy point on that slate, but we had all the value that day. He still looks good. Again, minutes could be volatile, but they're mostly above 20. Model approved, low ownership, low-ish ownership, at least on FanDuel. But the 3,300 price is really good. Let's knock out Toronto, Chicago real quick because we got news that Bradley Beal and Royce O'Neal are ruled out. So we're going to have to go back to Phoenix.
God.
Jayhawk gave the Discord Jacoby Walter low owned
Ooh.
last
Yeah, he
slate
did.
4,100. He's pulling the ownership today. I'm kind of happy to see Jamal Shed pulling lower ownership at 4,600 because I think that's a pretty solid pivot. But the model is on Jacoby Walter is the main guy we want to get here. And then quickly, above 7K, it's a little harder for me to get there because he's still not playing the fourth quarter. Same with Scotty Barnes. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you. I mean, quickly at his price is tempting in this matchup. But to your point, not playing the fourth quarter really kind of takes him out of consideration, especially with so much guard value. Again, shouts out Jayhawk on that Walter call. Different slate. He was not very popular at all. Now we're seeing the entire field getting to him. So your shout out sheet is really solid as well. I'm fine with both these guys. I think they're both really solid building blocks. Again, we do have a lot of good guard value on this slate, but Walter does have that small forward eligibility, which is very useful on DK. Other than that, not a ton I'm interested in. I mean, Jakob Podol has been playing really well, but he's been playing really well at limited minutes. So kind of take him with a grain of salt if you're looking at those game logs. But yeah, I think Walter looks good, assuming he starts. And then Sheet off the bench, pretty sneaky if you're playing a bunch of lineups, looking to get some away from some of that chalkier guard value. But yeah, just great matchup for both these teams here.
Maybe I'm box score watching, and these minutes were lower than the minutes he's been playing recently. But I think the sheet over Walter is a really strong pivot today. Play Walter as your main guy, have more exposure to him, but mix in sheet. You can get some pretty
Oh, yeah.
decent leverage on that one. And it's the last game. You can swap off if something pops up. Anything else on Toronto? I actually really like Jakob Pertl today. I'm kind of disappointed we haven't been touting him a little bit more on the show, but 6,600 at 10%. He's been destroying. Again, minutes are low. This is a pretty decent matchup against the Bulls, though.
Dude, he's essentially Mark Williams.
Nice.
They've both been smashing, but in limited minutes. So like, if you're chasing the upside, I get it. I think it's there. But at the same time, like when I see those low minutes, I'm always kind of hesitant to get there with any sort of aggression. I will say the matchup's good enough; you could probably get there regardless. But to me, it's like the same play as Mark Williams. I know you're always bullish on these guys because the ceiling's there. You see the 50 points in the box scores, and I totally get it. It does work out, but at the same time, I mean, the floor is low. We just got to keep that in mind. Not the type of play you want your night to depend on. But center not as strong as maybe I think I was hoping going into this slate. I don't mind mixing him in. I will say Orlando Robinson pretty much going to maybe match him in minutes if you're really desperate to get different. I don't think it's crazy on DK to play him for 4,522 minutes or so. He could get there as well. But yeah, Podol obviously the better play. It's just even when we're seeing these ceilings, a guy playing 25 minutes, it's tough for me to want to be super bullish.
On that floor note, I think Pirtle actually probably has one of the stronger floors of anyone playing today, even with the lower minutes. Because remember, Pirtle before, he used to play under 30 minutes. It was only this year that they started letting him run, and he was still getting there. And so it is
Right?
shorter minutes, but at 10%, I think we can get there. And I really like the matchup against the Bulls, too.
Love the
Uh,
matchup.
he's shooting like 100%. Keep that in mind. But I think he's definitely worth more than 10%. And Model likes him even at 26 minutes. Maybe he can get a couple more. Anything else on Toronto?
No, and again, on your point on Podol, I do think you're kind of right because he's not even taking threes. These are all 2 point shots that he's making. So that percentage does look like it maybe needs some regression factored in, but it's layups. It's him putting putbacks in, so you don't really have to worry too much.
Kevin Werder's available for the Bulls. Good. Josh Giddey's available. And Dalen Terry got ruled out. Nice. I can save some exposure on that guy.
God, that burnt me last time. Yep.
What was up that day that he was super chalk? I think I didn't play that day or I wasn't on the show, but I mean, I guess he
He
had a decent game
started.
last time, but is that it? Just minutes?
Well, I mean, he'd been looking decent in the model off the bench, and then he got the start, I think, with Herder out.
Okay.
So it was like, oh, yeah, this is great. He's 3-2. It was kind of like what I was describing with Champagne, except it was like if Champagne was suddenly starting. So I think everyone kind of rushed to him in a decent spot, and he just sucked. But sometimes we see that. Like these guys who are productive off the bench, they end up on the floor with the starters, and the starters are still taking all the usage. So it's almost worse for some of these guys to get promoted in that way.
And that's why we don't talk. That's why I stopped talking about usage numbers on the show because I think a lot of the numbers people talk about on shows are misleading. You have to have the exact lineup in whoever's on, whoever's off the court, and a player on the bench is not the same as a player not playing in that game at all. It's just, and so definitely keep that in mind. As for the Bulls, I mean, I'm still going to get over the field on Josh Giddey. He's had a couple bad games, but is this not just a prime get right spot against Toronto? And then this ownership on Matas Buzelis is one, it's for sure wrong. He's going to come in probably twice this, but I still think he's one of the top plays on the slate. He should be closer to 6K. I know he's been overperforming lately, but he's doing it not just scoring real points. And so getting the other stats is really key.
Yeah, I mean, three straight games, 7+ boards for Buzelis. I mean, 4 blocks last game. I don't think that's sustainable. But like you
Nope.
said, I mean, the price didn't come up as much as it should have. I'm fine getting to him. I think he looks good. To your point, yeah, this does feel like a get right spot for Giddy. You could go to Kobe White for a little bit cheaper. I probably wouldn't want both in the same lineup as good as the matchup is, just because they are pretty expensive. But at the same time, I think there's a good case to be made for either. As far as Vuk goes, I mean, he's okay. He's looked good in good matchups. This is on paper a good matchup for him. So you think he'd be able to perform pretty well here. Like, it really is matchup dependent when you look at his game log. Like, he struggled against OKC, crushed against Dallas with AD out, crushed against Sacramento with Sabonis out, struggled against the Lakers and the defensive stalwart that is Jackson Hayes. So tonight against Jakob Poeltl in this banged up Raptors squad, I do think Vuk is someone I'll probably get some exposure to.
I like the center side from Chicago as well. Yeah, even lower ownership. Don't think it's hard to pay up for anybody today. I don't think there were any centers that super stood out, so definitely fine taking shots. Did you mention Kobe White?
Yeah, I said I like him as much as Giddy, almost point per dollar. It's just you don't want both in the same lineup, I don't think. But I prefer Giddy of the two. But if you can't quite get there, I do think White's viable. Also, forward eligibility for him for some reason on DK now, definitely helpful.
That's super weird. It's like
Right?
my
I'll
height.
take it though.
I'm taller than Kobe White. He's not a small forward in the NBA.
Maybe with his hair up, he gets close, but
All
yeah.
right, yeah, he's got me on the hair. Can you pair Banton and Wright at point guard single entry? I think so. I don't see why not. Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. As long
Dunn,
as like starting, yeah, they should start.
yeah, Dunn should start. He's been, yeah, he should, especially with the other guys out now. Booker smash, Kamara smash. I talk about it's really hard for guys to do something. Devin Booker is the only NBA player that is playing for his team tonight. No disrespect to. No, he's only NBA player. None of these are NBA players, and so it's hard to do stuff. Like he's going to have all the usage, but he still has to perform. Like my opinion doesn't change on him. I think this is still fine ownership. The price is expensive, but we can take shots. That's all. That's all he is a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he takes like 25 shots here. If he doesn't, it'd be pretty stupid, but we'll see.
Kamara smash. Yeah, Kamara, what is his ownership looking at now? 16 and 28. So the field's getting there. The 40 minutes, like the numbers are still crunching in the model, but let's work with what we have. Directionally, we know that the model is going to have Delano Banton as the top play. He's only at 23 minutes right now, and he's a 23 DK value. I'd probably have 90% plus of Delano Banton, right?
Yeah, Banton's the smash. I will say this about Kamara. He's a good play, very good play. Not trying to talk anyone off of him. His job tonight is to play defense on Trey Young as much as
Yep.
possible. So that's going to be his first focus. Offense is going to be secondary for him, but it's not enough at his price for me not to play him. Just kind of keep that in mind.
Do you know who the two best man-to-man defensive players in the NBA this year are? Or I guess top
Um,
three.
Dort, Kamara, and Dyson Daniels.
No, Dylan Brooks. I've mentioned it before. Dyson Daniels is slightly above average man to man.
He's better. Yeah, he's a steal
It's the
merchant.
passing lanes. He's like probably the best in NBA history. But yeah,
Brooks
so
isn't surprising either, as much as I hate him.
yeah, and we talk about we don't love like adjusting things for one-on-one matchups, but Kamara is like really, really good on defense, so he could give Trey some trouble tonight.
Yeah.
And then, so what's the priorities here? We're jamming Ben. I'm jamming him on FanDuel too. Even at 4,400, he's a top value on the slate. Love Avdia. Going to play a ton of him. What else from Portland do you like?
Those are the two, and then Sharp. I think whenever he gets a little extra usage, it seems to go a long way. Guy takes a ton of shots, can rebound as well. Great matchup. Going to play a ton of minutes. I'd put him close to those other guys. Yeah, Sharp probably third for me. Like if I'm ranking them, it's Banton, Denny, Sharp, Kamara in that order. Those are the four I really want to prioritize.
Yeah, if you're a member of the site, make sure you refresh the model in a few minutes, see what the minutes update to, or ask Smitty in the Q&A in the Discord
Denny
after
OF index, holy cow!
14.0 at
Yeah,
42 minutes. These are a little high, but he's still, yeah, he's going to be just a smash play tonight. His
He's
ownership.
ahead of Giddy, Paulo, Ja, Butler, Curry. Like some of the names he's ahead of tonight, it's crazy, but it's deserved in my opinion. I love Denny here.
That was the only other team we had to go back and talk about, right? At Portland and Phoenix.
As far as backtracking goes, yeah, Phoenix too. If you wanted to go deeper into that, but
I mean, who though? Gillespie's a 20 on DK value. What do I mean? I guess I'm playing him. He's going to be in my exposures. This is 8.8 OF index. What? Colin Gillespie's going to put up 35 DK points tonight, dude.
dude, I like Dunn. And maybe it's wrong. I've been on this guy a lot this season. Like we have him for 29 minutes going through the game logs. Last games he's played 29. I mean, I don't know. I think he can get there. Uh, does it feel great? No, but is forward tougher to fill than guard tonight? Certainly. He's someone I have some interest in. And then, is there a world where Tyus Jones does get to start here? If he does, I do think
Yeah,
he's going to be interesting because usually they like him coming off the bench, but yeah, with all these other guys out, like I do think there's a world where he finally slides back into the starting lineup. In which case, he's going to be cheap. Not that we need more guard value, but someone I'd consider. And then Bowl again, if he starts at his price, I don't mind it. But yeah, Booker first and foremost, then a little bit of Dunn. They got to keep an eye on the lineup. But if Jones and or Bowles start, I do think they're worth considering.
yeah. Keep in mind, Bull's at 10 minutes right now. The model is still crunching, but like I don't know, just to keep it easy. Let's say you want to give him 20 minutes, just double this, just double all these numbers. 12.4 value, still not great since he's really cheap, but it's like playable if you give him 20 minutes. And then as for Tyus Jones, I'm actually glad you mentioned that because even if he comes off the bench, he's already showing up as a really strong value at 24 minutes. So if he starts, this is a strong. This is the first game, so it's not a late swap, but the field probably won't get there as much as they should. He is the pivot to the other guys. If he starts, he's awesome. Off the bench, he's probably still worth a percent or two.
Yeah, and one of the projected lineups I'm looking at again, this is projected as Cody Martin starting over Bobo. So keep an eye on that. He is minimum price on DK. Not something I'd be prioritizing, but if you're playing 150, I don't think it's the worst punt in the world.
Oh man, Cody Martin and mint price. I might do something silly tonight.
Yeah.
Oh man, my first instinct is I love it. He played not many minutes. He's capable of playing 20 plus. It looks like. We'll
He's
see what his
capable.
We'll see what his
Yeah.
ownership comes in at, but I think I'm interested. Yeah, sign up for the site. Plan starting at as little as $7 a week. It's $1 a day. Gets you access to the plug. The MLB plug was posted. Right before we came on the stream. Nick has
Yep.
a hand in that.
Oh
PGA,
yeah.
MMA. We got the Masters coming up next week. Big weekend, and
Ooh.
then model for all our sports. It's prime time right now, fellas. Occupy's crushing everything. Nick, feed me some guys for the dummy, and let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's start with Banton for sure.
Banton, can it be put in modest? It's like my first instinct. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I hate to do this, but were we supposed to talk about the Denver game on FanDuel?
I didn't have FanDuel pulled up, so that's why I forgot. Yeah, I thought we had minutes. That's why I was kind of dilly-dallying. Minnesota. You already have it pulled up. Go or whichever team you want to start with. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can talk through the injury report here real quick. So Minnesota, no DiVincenzo, no Nas Reed. That's going to secure minutes for Conley, who is another cheap guard. Not that we need him. Alexander Walker looks a little bit better off the bench. He's probably going to be one of the first guys off the bench. It's been a while since Jaden, McDaniels has been a thing. His usage is probably going to see a nice spike here. I don't mind getting to him a little bit. Good matchup too against Denver, who doesn't play good defense. So you can make a case for any of the starters, and then Alexander Walker on the Minnesota side. Not going to sit here and say anything's a true priority, but at the same time, if you're kind of waiting for more news, McDaniels is the most popular play right now on the FanDuel slate at 5,700. He's definitely too cheap. So if you're playing cash, small field, I do think he's a staple for you. But yeah, this team is going to see a boost with a few of their key rotational pieces unavailable.
Nice. I'll just point out Mike Conley, super strong DK value for the night for the showdown anyway. But FanDuel, super strong FanDuel value. Jaden McDaniels, 46%.
That's crazy.
I recommended him the other day, and you were like, he put up 26 that day. Didn't get there, but
Those with Nas in.
this is still high. I think this is a little too high. He's a good play. It's a good play.
I mean, we have him for 32 minutes. Usually, when he gets over 30 minutes, he's hitting value there.
Let's take a look at Denver real quick. Where's Jokic? 16 OF index. Nice. As for values, no one super stands out. MPJ is a good GPP play. Aaron Gordon, a good GPP play. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Joker at like 0% owned for whatever reason. No one seems to be getting there, probably because Giannis is super popular. 5% on FanDuel. I know you're almost paying 13K, but that does seem wrong. Murray and Gordon are both questionable, so keep an eye on that. My gut is that they both play. If they were to be out, obviously we'd see boost in both Porter, Brown, and Westbrook, or all three rather than both. But yeah, not the best matchup on paper. I do think in tournaments, Jokic is kind of comically underowned, though. If you are playing on FanDuel, he's probably somebody to get some exposure to.
Is it because people are fearing Rudy Gobert? I'm looking at the box score of Jokic versus Gobert, and Gobert actually, I'm surprised how good of defense he plays on Jokic
Yeah,
historically. He
yeah,
kind of
he does.
like for Jokic's standards, he kind of locks him up like 32, 10, and 5, 25, 10, and 3, 20, 12, and 16. Those aren't great games for you. I know that's like a monster triple double, but for the price, he would
But
have to
dude,
have
they
a
played a
really
whole
big
playoff
game.
series last year. He had 3 games in the 70s. Like,
Let's see.
I think it's too small of
Okay.
a sample. I think the field's overreacting.
Yeah, because that was my initial lean was that why aren't we playing Jokic today? I don't care about Gobert being on the other side, so we should still be getting over this 5%.
Yeah,
Um, all right, nice. Back to the dummy. So thank you for reminding me, Nick. Sorry, fellas.
oh, good.
Who else do we want in here?
Denny, I
Yep,
think is a smash. I mean, probably Giannis.
Giannis. I really don't want to.
You don't want to? We don't have to.
Let's see what it looks like before. Let's see how much salary we can get left after we put in the other guys.
Yeah, so we already have Banton, right? Banton, Denny, Buzelis.
Did you want to throw in Ryan Dunn?
Not this early. He's like one of the
Ryan
last guys in, maybe.
Ryan Rollins, McHale, or OG?
I like Rollins. I like OG. I think those are the next two.
Let's do
Did you hear my
OG.
Buzelis too? I
Yeah,
chatted.
he was the first person I put in after
Oh,
Banton.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay,
all
I'm
these
looking
guys
now. I
are
see
like
you.
top 15 on the value on DK. It's pretty good.
Got it.
Adam Bona, maybe if we're like thinking he starts.
I don't mind it. Um,
Kamara. We don't have a
I mean, it's
center
a good
yet.
Kongwu spot too.
Ooh, yeah, I like a Kongwu. 7,600 low ownership. I guess we didn't really mention him, but I'm always
Yeah,
playing a
he's been in
Kongwu every
tough
day.
matchups. Yeah, he's another guy I think people are maybe a little bit too low on because he's been in tough matchups recently. But I think Capella's still out. No Jalen Johnson, obviously. He's someone I don't mind.
I want to see if I don't think we can fit Giannis in, even if we get like a super cheap guy in here. Let's say we plug in like Colin Gillespie, leaves us 10K for a util, which does get us Paolo, Trey Young, Devin Booker, something like that.
Yeah, I'd probably go Booker out of that group, but
Yeah, or you could come down from a Kongwu, maybe play Bona, and then you can get up to Giannis, upgrade Gillespie. So
yeah, that's probably the more logical move. As
there's
long as
some.
Bone is starting, yeah.
Would you say that this is a pretty good collection of guys for the dummy? I mean, OG and McHale, I think, are both pretty good, very comfortable playing them both together. But these other guys, Ban, Avdia, Buzelis, like Avdia, yeah, he put up 60 last game. We're hoping he does it again. It's a prime matchup, and I think the ownership's too low. But I think this is a good core.
Yeah, honestly, I'd throw Shady on Sharp in there too.
Yeah, Shade on Sharp is going to get, he's owned. Yeah, don't forget about Shade. And the price is coming up, but his usage should be kind of high.
He's gonna do well here. I
And
love the Portland side of that game.
yeah, Cody Martin at min price is an option. What's a reasonable ownership for Justin Edwards? I still like Justin Edwards even at the 62, 2 and 3%. That's honestly probably the reasonable exposure. You shouldn't have much more than that if you do.
Yeah, good tournament play. Definitely some risk at this price.
Power Chuck being the only shooter means you also get more defense on you too. Trust me, I know. I know better than most.
That's true.
Banton only played 15 last game, but he didn't start. And Simons
Right.
was in,
Yeah,
right?
it's been. I'm trying to find the last game he started, but yeah, whenever he gets over, how many minutes do we have him for?
Banton. Let's refresh and check, and then we'll get out of here in a minute,
23.
fellas.
Okay, I think that's the
Yeah,
number I said. If he's over 22, just play a ton of him because
dude,
it's.
we have him. We have Banton for 32 minutes, and his DK value is 31. I make this joke sometimes, but this is literally the highest number I've ever seen under either value. 10.2 OF index at min price. Just play 90% plus. I think, right?
Yeah, honestly, 32 minutes seems aggressive, but he doesn't need 32 minutes. Just play a ton of him.
Oh, and then yeah, Mitchell Robinson's gonna be a really, really, really strong play if Cat's ruled out. He's probably okay to get to even with Cat in at 4%, but if Cat's ruled out, 3,200 Mitch Robinson, he can't play 30 minutes though. Keep that in mind. We don't need 30 minutes from him. Precious is down to 3,300 too. He would get extra playing time. Keep him in mind as a pivot.
Yeah, I'd like Robinson. Like, and if you have Bona in and Cat gets ruled out, it's very easy to pivot. Use that salary somewhere else.
Wouldn't Banton have a higher usage rate than Simons? I don't know. I don't know.
Eh,
The thing is,
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
it's an exact science. Yeah.
it doesn't matter for our decision making today. It's like, is he really, really, really good or just really, really good? So.
Right. Exactly.
But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Baseball starts in a half hour. NBA starts in an hour. Smitty's in the Discord. I don't know what time he's doing it. Smitty, is he doing it
He's
now
a
or in a
7 to
half hour?
7:30. Yeah, because I think he's doing it later because of the late lock.
All right, he'll start in a half hour. Instructions to join that are in the description below. Let's get it tonight, fellas. Good luck. Truly appreciate you guys watching.
Take care, everyone.